Not gonna lie, when we heard the news that somewhere somehow Sony might be acquiring Kadokawa, I was thinking behind the scenes, and somewhere the thought crossed my mind, what would happen to the Bloodborne PC emulation that's currently ongoing? A lot of work has been put into that project, and some really interesting pictures and some screenshots have been shared. And I'm gonna go ahead and share them with you guys, and well, show them to you guys. I share them. I say share them. Everyone has access to them right here on Twitter. And this person put out these pictures of some reshades that have been done and some map edits. And I strongly believe that the true potential of this game is still being uncovered in terms of visuals and the art style that FromSoftware is able to implement. Now, this is a game that I would have loved to play if, say, it was 60 FPS, and if, say, the very first time I had already maybe played Elden Ring. I remember the first time I touched Bloodborne, because I own it on a PlayStation, and it's also on PlayStation's greatest hits. I I started playing that game, and I tried to fight that wolf in the room. It's the wrong thing to do. You're supposed to actually, skedaddle and take off, and then go get yourself, a little something so that you can beat on these bad guys. And I thought to myself, man, this is impossible. How do they want you to fight this monster with your bare hands? But having played Elden Ring and all of the above, I think it's really changed my mind and opened my, kind of like my, frame of mind to what From Software is able to cook up. And man, I cannot be more impressed with what's going on. And to be very honest, because of this element of freedom, I strongly believe that this is one of those games that, man, were it not for certain, scenarios and situations, this game might have appealed to a broader audience at launch. Now, I say this because, again, when you actually think about it, a lot of people will, would have to admit that these Souls games were simply a niche until Elden Ring came around. It was Elden Ring that really broke this game open to a whole lot of people. There were not a lot of people who really were, into these kinds of games until they played Elden Ring. There was a mass appeal for Elden Ring at the time. And when you actually go ahead and think about it right now, ladies and gentlemen, you can tell that if it wasn't for, were it not for Elden Ring, a lot of people would never have even been bothering looking into some of these games. I would be one of those for sure. But having dumped a bunch of time on Elden Ring and enjoyed the experience and enjoyed, what the game has had to offer, I can now comfortably go back and say, it's nice to be able to see some of these titles that were made by From Software that carried very similar elements, similar gameplay mechanics, similar progression mechanics, and are out here, and people are just doing a good job. Another really interesting thing too is, the emulation thing is not the easiest. I tried to follow the steps and the rules with the emulator. Man, it is not easy at all. I probably would go ahead and do it on my I'm on my small form factor PC. That PC is going to be designated to doing all of these shenanigans. So when I get some time, I really want to go ahead and see what these folk have been able to cook up. Because at the end of the day, when you kind of think about it, this is one of those ports. This is one of those projects that a lot of people are looking forward to. And it brings us back to the Kadokawa conversation. People were probably thinking, what's Sony going to do with projects like these? In fact, the folk who've been working on it, they kind of went, under the radar for the longest time. And then the announcement showed up, and then everything got really, quieter in a sense. But, it seems like now everyone's like, all right, now people can actually, comfortably talk about stuff at the end of the day. So it's very interesting. We're going to keep seeing some more stuff like that. And they're still doing a whole bunch of stuff too, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, this is, beastly at the end of the day. And it's really showcasing some real interesting elements across the, across the game and across the world and across all of the different elements that From Software put in here. How PlayStation has not commissioned the remaster of this game is one of the most shocking things to me, especially after Elden Ring. Perhaps maybe some elements of reality that maybe From Software may not be interested in doing anything that is exclusively beneficial to just PlayStation anymore. And now they want to pretty much run their own package. You know what I mean? If you get the drift, because again, if they run their own package, what that says and what that means is, they get to pretty much reap all of the benefits and all of the rewards. This is one of those things where the exclusivity paradigm is as nice as it can get, but a game like this, is a commercial project and a potential commercial success, but in a specific context that it will be unveiled to a broader audience. Now, the big audience for these From games, now that we're seeing, is the PC audience. I mean, they've always been the biggest audience. If you think about the Souls games and the emulation and a lot of the, speed running and all of that stuff, PC had always kind of been, at the forefront of a lot of this stuff. So that being said, and when it comes down to it, I strongly believe right now, ladies and gentlemen, that you would be, in a sense, shocked, right? More than anything else, after all has been said and done, after all has been portrayed, after all has been, pointed towards, that somewhere, somehow, this game has just basically been officially left alone. And on the unofficial side, that's where they're actually doing work on this particular project. But like I said, I am somewhat, happy that the project is still in the hands of, community modders and stuff. There's still a lot of freedom there. There's still a lot of stuff that needs to be, still needs to be done. Whenever this is going to all be done, who knows, But at the end of the day, the reshades and the mods are just impressive at the end of the day. And I'm hoping that it gets to a point where it's a lot more user-friendly. A lot of this is still high-end in terms of, like, the deep depths of emulation and all of that. And, when you think about it, you're thinking to yourself, man, who's got time for all of that? Like, when I read the instructions, I was like, okay, I need to find a whole 24-hour day to sit here and do stuff. Well, I mean, it's not really that bad. I mean, if you install some, C++ modules and Visual Studio, that's stuff that I do, even using Unreal Engine and so on and so forth. But, I'm just kind of shocked as to how much work it takes to actually get in and start getting the emulators in place. So I'm happy that we at least still have, this aspect of things. And then hopefully down the road, we don't hear about any of these acquisitions From can be allowed to just work as an independent, party in doing its games. And we don't have to deal with all of the shenanigans. And, as much as people may say exclusivity really does have an attractive aspect to it, I've always thought that it was kind of a weak way to basically add value to your platform, especially if you had third-party, developers making games and shipping on your platform. That's just my own, point of view. I may be wrong, but at the end of the day, look at the game now, right? The game is just sitting on this platform, and how many people bought it at the time when it launched? It sold about 1 million at launch, and then over the years, it sold 7 million, copies. So didn't necessarily inspire a sequel that it could have, where it's, say, in a position where, it sold a lot, I guess. Again, if you think about all of the profit sharing and all the splits and everything, involved, that's also something that you really do have to take into account at the end of the day, how, the game basically has just sat in PlayStation's hands dormant. And I mean, can you imagine that? It just sat there dormant. And there's so much potential that could be extracted from it. But again, maybe it's a blessing to those of us who are willing to, work around the, the fringes in terms of looking at the game from a different perspective. So we hope that this project basically becomes a thing. And I think it's probably going to be very popular. It's going to be super popular, when it's all said and done. Anyways, thanks for watching the video. I just wanted to go ahead and showcase this. I think a lot of the FromSoftware fans and Bloodborne fans and even Elden Ring fans will find it really interesting that this kind of a project is actually a thing going on right now. Thanks for watching the video. Appreciate you guys' time and audience, and hopefully we'll talk pretty soon in another one. Peace out.